Carlos Smith, the son of my wife's first love, got into a fight at school, and the teacher called for a parent. My wife rushed over immediately. She left our daughter alone at home, and Julia had a heart attack and was rushed to the emergency room. I questioned my wife about why she abandoned Julia, but she just felt wronged. It's all Julia's fault for being too fragile. She can't even stay safe at home. Carlos lost his mom. I couldn't just watch him get bullied. I was so furious that I tagged my wife in the parent group chat. "Hey everyone, this is Carlos's mom." Then I tagged Carlos's dad. "Your wife. If she's so eager to be someone else's wife and mom, I'll help her fulfill that wish." As soon as I heard my daughter had collapsed from a heart attack, I closed up my stall and rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, I saw Mrs. Fatima, our elderly neighbor, sitting on a bench with a worried look. Mrs. Fatima was the one who first noticed something was wrong with Julia and called for help to take her to the hospital. She also called me immediately to let me know about Julia's condition. Before I could even ask how Julia was doing, Mrs. Fatima spoke up. "Luke, I hate to say this, but you and your wife are way too careless. Julia is still so young and has a heart condition. How could you just leave her alone at home? Not a soul to look after her. If no one had noticed in time, the consequences would have been unthinkable." Her eyes were full of compassion for Julia, and a hint of blame towards me and my wife, Latina. That's when I realized Latina wasn't even there. Julia had always been under Latina's care while I worked at the food stall to support our family. I hurriedly asked Mrs. Fatima, "Where's Latina?" The moment I mentioned Latina, Mrs. Fatima got even angrier, pounding her chest in frustration. "Her? Totally unreliable. Julia said she went to school to help a boy named Carlos, left her own kid to take care of someone else's. What kind of mother does that? Carlos? That's Jason Smith's son, and Jason just so happens to be Latina's first love." I had a vague idea of what happened, because I caught a glimpse of the situation earlier while I was working. Carlos had gotten into a fight at school and accidentally scratched another kid's face. The other kid's parent was furious and demanded an explanation. So, the teacher tagged Carlos's dad in the group chat, asking him to come over. But instead of Jason showing up, it was my wife, Latina, who went there. I knew Latina never really got over Jason. They had broken up reluctantly. Latina was once the spoiled daughter of the Mara group, and Jason came from a well-off family too. Everyone thought they were a perfect match. At that time, I could only secretly admire Latina from a distance and wish her and Jason well. Then, Mara Group went bankrupt, and Latina fell from her pedestal, buried in debt, and constantly harassed by creditors. And just when Latina needed support the most, Jason announced he was leaving for an overseas study program, saying he needed a stable environment for his education. Heartbroken, Latina had no choice but to let him go. That's when I stepped in. I took care of Latina, bringing her breakfast every day, walking her to work, and even using my savings to help pay off her family's debts. Maybe it was my persistence, or maybe it was Jason's wedding announcement on social media that pushed her over the edge. But eventually, Latina accepted my proposal after we got married. I started from scratch, setting up a food stall to make a living, while Latina stayed home, doing what she enjoyed. I loved her, protected her, and never let her suffer any grievance. Not long after, Julia, our precious daughter, was born. But I couldn't help but notice that Latina still kept some of her old photos with Jason. Sometimes she would even murmur his name in her sleep. When Jason divorced his wife and returned home with his son Carlos, Latina started looking at Jason's photos more often and saying his name even more frequently. She, who used to hate dealing with school matters, suddenly volunteered to pick up and drop off Julia from school, supposedly to help me out. At first, I thought she was just being considerate. That was until I found out that Carlos went to the same school. And Julia often complained to me that Latina was always favoring Carlos. Whenever Julia and Carlos had a disagreement, Latina would always make Julia apologize first. Even when Carlos hit Julia, Latina would scold Julia instead, saying that as a girl, she should learn to be more tolerant. Latina was always strict with Julia, but lenient with Carlos. If Julia wanted candied fruit, Latina would scold her for even thinking about it. But if Carlos wanted some, Latina would buy it without a second thought. Julia would come to me with teary eyes and ask, "Dad, is Mom really my mom?" Sometimes I feel like she's more like Carlos's mom. I would always try to reassure Julia. Of course she's your mom, honey. It's just because Carlos is a guest, so Mom is being extra polite. Julia would nod in understanding, her little voice full of determination. I see. I won't be jealous of Carlos anymore. Seeing Julia's sensible and sweet attitude made my heart ache even more. I had always made excuses for Latina's favoritism, thinking it was just a leftover sentiment for her first love. But I never imagined that this indulgence would lead to her abandoning our sick daughter just to stand up for someone else's kid. But now, I finally realized how wrong I was. Latina's obsession with her first love had turned into something worse. Just for that brat, she left our daughter alone at home, leading to Julia's heart condition flaring up. She was still in the emergency room, and we hadn't heard any updates. The red light above the ER door made my chest tighten. The thought of losing my sweet little Julia was unbearable. My heart ached with fear and guilt. Anger surged through me, and I dialed Latina's number immediately. She hung up as soon as I called. The next moment, Latina arrived at the hospital in a bright red dress, looking perfectly put together, but with an annoyed expression. "Geez, I'm here, aren't I? Why are you rushing me?" She was the one who messed up, yet she acted like I was the one causing trouble. I looked at her, my tone icy. "Where were you? Why did you leave Julia alone?" Latina tossed her hair back, annoyed by my sudden change of attitude. "Luke, what's with your tone? You never spoke to me like this before." Her arrogance only fueled my anger. Julia's life was hanging by a thread, and she was still talking about my attitude? Did she still think she was the spoiled princess of Mara Group? Mara Group was gone. I blamed myself for spoiling her too much all these years, making her think she was still that untouchable heiress. It's not about my attitude. It's about Julia. Did you even think about her? If you cared about Julia at all, you wouldn't have left her alone. This was the first time I had ever lost my temper with Latina. Julia was my bottom line, and Latina had crossed it. Seeing me so angry, Latina raised her voice too, unwilling to back down. I didn't leave her on purpose. Something came up, okay? I couldn't help but laugh at her excuse. Oh, really? Something came up? You mean playing the role of Carlos's guardian and backing him up at school? Latina, are you even Julia's mom? You're more worried about someone else's kid than your own. Carlos has a father, he doesn't need you to babysit him. And the kid was the one who started the fight? You really think it's a good idea to rush over and defend him? More importantly, Julia almost died because of your negligence. If it weren't for Mrs. Fatima noticing, Julia might not be here anymore. My voice was hoarse from yelling, eyes bloodshot with frustration. Mrs. Fatima came over at that moment, shaking her head with a look of disdain toward Latina. Latina, you just don't get it. If anything happens to Julia, you'll regret it. After saying that, Mrs. Im, Fatima patted my shoulder and walked away. Latina, who had always been treated like a princess, had never faced such a scene before. Her eyes turned red, and she looked hurt. You're all acting like I meant for something bad to happen. I'm her mother. Why would I want to hurt her? Blame Julia for being too weak. She can't even stay safe at home. Carlos needed someone, and I couldn't just watch him get bullied. He doesn't have a mom, remember? She kept making excuses, not feeling guilty at all, still defending Carlos. I couldn't help but sneer. So, you don't want to see Carlos get bullied, but you're fine with Julia suffering alone at home? You just love playing stepmom, don't you? Latina was fuming now. Luke Dawson, are you out of your mind? It's not my fault Julia's so weak. And didn't you name her Julia? I think that name is just cursed, making her so frail. I was completely speechless. Latina's logic was beyond absurd. No matter what happened, it was always someone else's fault, never hers. I didn't want to argue anymore, especially not near Julia. Back when I named Julia, I hoped she would be our little gem, our most precious treasure. But Latina twisted it into a curse, as if the name itself had made Julia sickly. And the fact that Latina knew Julia's health was fragile, but still left her alone, just proved how little she valued our daughter. If that's how she really felt, then I didn't need to keep being nice to her. I pulled out my phone and started typing furiously. Latina thought I was giving in, and a smug smile appeared on her face. She had no idea I was tagging her in the parent group chat. Hey everyone, this is Carlos's mom. Then I tagged Carlos's dad again. Your wife. If she wanted to be someone else's wife and mother, I would make sure the whole group knew about it. Latina and Jason's reputations were ruined instantly. The group chat exploded with reactions. Dowdu's mom. Huh? Isn't this Julia's mom? Why is she Carlos's mom now? Toduo's dad. Yeah. And why did Julia's dad tag Carlos's dad, saying Julia's mom is his wife? Does he have some weird fetish? Pippi's mom. Whoa, I smell some serious gossip. Didn't know parent groups could be this spicy. When I looked up again, Latina was glaring at me, her face pale with anger. She lunged forward, trying to snatch my phone. Luke, delete it. Stop making trouble. Before, I would have given in as soon as she got upset. But this time, she had crossed a line, and I wasn't about to back down. I didn't delete the message. Instead, I smirked. I'm not causing trouble. I'm just giving you what you wanted. You're the one who's sick, Latina. Latina gritted her teeth and dove straight into the parent group chat, trying to clear her name. Oh, everyone. It's just a misunderstanding. I'm Julia's mom. I can't possibly be someone else's mom or wife. Julia's dad is just not thinking straight today. He's talking nonsense. Please don't take it seriously, okay? Right after, Jason chimed in. Carlos's dad. I'm not sure why Julia's dad is saying that, but I assure you, Julia's mom and I are innocent. One claimed I was delusional. The other played innocent. Fine. If that's how you want to play, don't blame me for not holding back. I snapped a photo of the hospital emergency room, lights still glowing red, and posted it in the group. I'm perfectly fine, me mind's clear, but my daughter Julia is currently in emergency care. And if you want to know why, you should ask my dear wife. Julia has a heart condition. She needs constant care, but today, my wife left her alone at home to run off and back up Carlos, leading to her heart failure and collapse. If my wife cares so much about Carlos, I guess that makes her his mom, doesn't it? The photo set off a storm in the group chat. Dowdu's mom. Oh my God, poor Julia. How could a mother be so careless? Totuo's dad. What kind of person sides with someone else's kid over their own? How can you not care about your own daughter's life? Mao's mom. Wait, I just remembered. It was Carlos who scratched my kid's face today, and the one who came to represent him was Julia's mom. I thought it was weird at the time, but I was too mad to think about it. Mao's mom. Now that I think about it, it really was her. She looked so heartbroken and desperate. like she was Carlos's real mother or something. As soon as Mama's mom said that, the chat blew up with people criticizing Latina. Latina's expression turned from pale to furious as she glared at me, desperately trying to salvage her image. Oh, I just felt bad for Carlos. He doesn't have a mom. And I was afraid he'd be bullied. And of course I love Julia. When I heard she was rushed to the ER, my heart shattered. I was so scared and so guilty. It's just that. It's hard being a good person these days. To emphasize her heartbreak, she even posted a picture of herself with red eyes, rubbing them dramatically. Some of the parents actually began to waver. Pippi's mom, well, if you put it like that, it's kind of understandable. I mean, she's always been so kind-hearted. Nana's dad, I guess she really is remorseful. Those tears look real. Kind-hearted? Remorseful? Give me a break. I wasn't going to let her get away with that. I immediately started typing again. At Julia's mom, kind-hearted, huh? I think not. You've always had double standards. Carlos has hit Julia more than once, and you've done nothing. You even told Julia to swallow her pride and let it go. Not only do you favor Carlos, but you always force Julia to endure it quietly. And when it comes to food and treats, you never buy anything for Julia. But you'll buy whatever Carlos wants without a second thought. Your bias is so strong, it's practically visible from space. I attached screenshots of our previous conversations where I told Latina about Carlos bullying Julia. She outright defended him, saying Julia was too sensitive and probably caused trouble on her own. I even added the receipts of all the things she bought for Carlos and Jazz and expensive gifts and treats while Julia got nothing. I didn't even need to go all out. Just a portion of the evidence was enough. Coming from me, Julia's father, and Latina's husband, the chat blew up with outrage. Pippi's mom. I can't believe it. The perfect mom image she put up is all fake. She's just a two-faced hypocrite. Nana's dad. She doesn't deserve to be a mother. I almost fell for her act earlier. How stupid of me. The perfect image Latina had maintained for so long was completely shattered. Her reputation was in ruins. Latina's whole body was trembling with rage, and she looked at me with eyes full of hatred, as if she wanted to tear me apart. Luke, do you really have to push me this far? I was just about to retort when I received a message from Jason. Luke, you've gone too far. You know how much Latina cares about her reputation. Oh? So her pride matters more than the life of our daughter? Fine. If you care so much, why don't you just take her away? I typed out a single line. If you care so much, why don't you take her? Spare me and Julia from all this nonsense. Jason didn't reply, and I assumed he was just trying to play the hero. But to my surprise, he showed up, not long after. He was dressed in a sleek suit, hair slicked back neatly, wearing gold-rimmed glasses. He looked every bit the successful businessman. In contrast, I was still wearing my old, faded shirt, clearly outclassed. Latina, who had just been gnashing her teeth at me a moment ago, suddenly turned soft when she saw Jason. Her eyes turned red, and she whispered, Jason, you're here? Jason knelt down, gently comforting her. Yes, I'm here. Luke told me to come take you home. Come on, don't cry. He's just angry right now. Why don't you come with me for a bit? When he calms down, I'll bring you back. At first, Latina was still a bit reserved because I was there, but when she realized I was the one who called Jason over, she leaned into him like she had no bones, letting herself be pampered without any shame. Jason, seeing I had no reaction, just kept indulging her as if I didn't exist. They even walked out hand in hand right in front of me. I didn't even look up at them. They weren't worth it. Not even anger. I felt absolutely nothing. Because from the moment Latina chose to abandon me and Julia, my heart was dead. After they left, I immediately contacted my lawyer to draft up the divorce papers. I did love Latina deeply when I was young. But now, all that was left was ashes. But at least I still had Julia. Not long after, the light outside the emergency room finally went off, and the doctor came out with good news. Julia is out of danger. With proper care, she'll recover. I paid the medical fees and pulled up a small chair beside her hospital bed. Looking at her thin frame and pale face, my heart ached. I gently took her tiny hand in mine, my voice trembling. I'm sorry. Julia, this is my fault. I should have been there for you. I should have protected you. I didn't know how long I sat there, mumbling my apologies, until I almost drifted off to sleep. Suddenly, I felt a soft squeeze on my hand. Julia, still under the oxygen mask, her voice barely a whisper. Daddy, it's okay. I'm fine. Don't worry. This child was always so considerate. After that, she fell back into a deep sleep. I stayed with her the entire night. The next morning, my lawyer sent me the finalized divorce papers. I hired a trusted nurse to take care of Julia and grabbed the 2 copies of the agreement. It was time to pay Jason's mansion a visit. I knew where his mansion was, back when Jason broke up with Latina. It was at that very place. She cried her heart out, and it was Jason who called me to pick her up. Funny how things turned out. Back then, he asked me to take her away, and now I was going to hand her right back. I knocked on the door, and it wasn't long before Latina opened it, looking disheveled and clearly not expecting me. Her hair was a mess, and I could easily guess what had happened. I couldn't help but chuckle. Couldn't even wait for the divorce, huh? So eager to get back with him? Latina crossed her arms and snorted, glaring at me. What? Are you regretting it now? Yesterday you were the one who told him to take me. She thought I was here out of jealousy, but I was just here to laugh at them at their shamelessness and at my own blindness in the past. At that moment, Jason walked out upon hearing the noise. When he saw me at the door, he paused for a moment, but quickly regained his composure. Luke, you're here, Yesterday, Latina was really upset, so I just stayed with her, had a few drinks. Things got out of hand, don't blame her. Oh? So it's your fault then? I raised an eyebrow. I mean, it's not really anyone's fault. I couldn't help but laugh even harder. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out 2 neatly bound copies of the divorce agreement, tossing them onto the coffee table between us. Well, look at you, Mr. Former Lover. You don't have to feel bad. I'm just here to hand over the divorce papers. After all, I'm not one for keeping. Used goods. That line hit them both like a punch. Latina's face flushed with embarrassment, and Jason's expression darkened. Luke, you call her used goods. Then what were you? Didn't you pick up what I left behind? I smirked, shrugging my shoulders. That's why I'm here to return it. Latina's face turned even greener with rage. You bastard! Luke, are you seriously doing this? You used to love me. You doted on me. You even spent your savings to help pay off my family's debts. You loved me. This has to be just because you're mad. You're just angry because I went back to Jason. If you just apologize and make things right, maybe. Just maybe. I'd come back to you. Her words weren't out of love. It was her vanity speaking. Latina couldn't stand the idea of being humiliated publicly, and she thought I would still cling to her just to save face. I rubbed my chin thoughtfully, pretending to consider her offer. Oh, that reminds me. You still owe me $1 million from back then, remember? Her eyes flickered, and she swallowed hard. I could almost see the calculations running through her mind. So, here's the deal. You sign the divorce papers, and I'll consider that million paid off. It's yours. No need to repay me." Latina's face twisted with fury, her eyes flashing with indignation. "Luke, are you seriously forcing me like this? Divorce? Divorce? Have you even thought about Julia?" "You want her to grow up without a mother?" I chuckled coldly. "Julia would be better off without you as her mother. And besides, I'm taking care of her now. We don't need you." I slid the divorce agreement across the table, placing a pen on top, as if I was helping her out. "Go ahead and sign, or I could get that million back. Your choice." Latina tried everything's sweet talk, threats, tears, but I remained firm. When she saw that I wasn't going to budge, she finally, grudgingly, scribbled her name on the papers. "Luke, you'll regret this. I'll be just fine without you. I'm moving up in the world, but you? You're just a street vendor. You're gonna suffer without me." In her mind, I was nothing but a lowly food stall owner, while her first love, Jason, had come back as a corporate executive at S Corporation. I didn't argue. I just laughed. Who's gonna regret it? Guess we'll find out soon enough. When I left Jason's mansion with the divorce papers in hand, I felt lighter than I had in years. What Latina didn't know was that I'd been saving up all these years running my food stall. I'd quietly built up a decent amount of money, far more than she realized. Not only that, but my house was part of a redevelopment project. It was slated for demolition soon, and I was about to receive a hefty payout. I had planned to tell Latina this good news just before Julia fell ill. But now, it didn't matter. She was no longer my wife, and she was no longer Julia's mother. After sorting out the legal paperwork, I knew I needed to have a conversation with Julia. She deserved to know the truth. I waited until she was feeling better, and then spent the entire afternoon explaining everything that had happened. "Julia, are you mad at me for the divorce? Are you upset that you won't have a mom anymore?" I was genuinely worried after all. She was just a child, and she'd lost her mother because of my decision. But Julia just reached out with her tiny hands and hugged me tight, her voice sweet and innocent. "I'm not mad, Daddy. I want to stay with you. I love you. And if that mean mommy is gone, that's okay. Maybe one day we'll find a better one. And even if you don't, I'll stay with you forever, I promise." Julia's firm and determined tone filled my heart with warmth. I pulled her closer, my voice choked with emotion. "Thank you, my sweet girl." From that day forward, I took on both roles, father and mother. I handled everything: cooking, cleaning, dropping her off, and picking her up from school, and I still managed to run my food stall, to be honest. Life got a lot easier without Latina draining my savings and spoiling Carlos. I started saving money faster, and our lives improved significantly. I bought myself a decent new outfit and got Julia a whole bunch of beautiful dresses, chocolate, candy, and even the doll she had always wanted, the one Latina said was too expensive. Julia's eyes sparkled with happiness, but she still hesitated. "Daddy, are you sure? These are really expensive." "Mommy, I mean, that lady never let me buy them." I patted her head gently. "It's not expensive if it makes you happy, sweetheart. Money can always be earned back, but your childhood and your happiness, I won't let anyone take that away from you." With her new dresses and her favorite snacks, Julia's face brightened, and she became so much more cheerful and lively. The change was worth every penny. One morning, after I dropped Julia off at school, I hurried back to my food stall to set up for the day. Just as I finished laying everything out, I saw a familiar pair approaching. Latina, arm linked with Jason, was walking toward my stall, looking smug and polished. "Oh my, isn't this Luke? You look so worn out." It must be hard doing all this alone, huh? As she spoke, she deliberately flipped her hair back, flashing a huge diamond ring the size of a small marble. See? I told you you'd be miserable without me. Now you regret it, don't you? And look at me. I still have Jason. We even got married, you know. I should thank you for letting me go. I wouldn't have this happiness otherwise. Jason smirked as he added his bit. It's your own fault, Luke. You didn't appreciate her, so I got her back. Latina stood there, gloating, her head held high, while I just calmly grabbed the vegetables and meatballs closest to where she was standing and tossed them in the trash. The smile on her face vanished instantly. Luke, what the hell are you doing? I gave her the most pleasant smile I could muster. Oh, I'm just throwing away the ones you spat on. Don't want my customers getting sick, you know? Her face twisted with fury. You think it's dirty because of me? Maybe it's because of your filthy hands. I looked down at my hands, still clean and gloved. The only thing rough about them were the calluses I'd earned from years of hard work. And she had the nerve to call that dirty? I looked her straight in the eyes. My hands are dirty, but you never seemed to mind when you were spending the money they earned. Her face flushed, a mix of anger and shame. She grabbed Jason's arm and stormed off. Forget it. I'm not eating here. I've lost my appetite. I watched them walk away, smiling to myself. Good. They were the last people I wanted to see anyway. I deliberately moved my food stall to another spot, far away from where Latina and Jason might stumble upon it. I thought that would be the end of it, that I wouldn't have to see them again. But fate had other plans. One afternoon, just as I was about to close up for the day, I got a message from Julia's teacher. Mr. Dawson, could you come to the school? Julia got into an altercation with Carlos. She's a bit hurt. My heart clenched. Without even thinking, I threw everything back into the cart and dashed to the school. When I walked into the office, my heart sank. Julia sat there, her little face bruised and swollen, eyes red but not shedding a single tear. She clenched her fists tightly, her expression stubborn and defiant, refusing to cry. And there was Carlos, sitting across from her, chewing gum with a smug look on his face, occasionally blowing bubbles just to mock her. He didn't seem to have a single ounce of regret. If anything, he seemed to enjoy it. I clenched my hands into fists, my knuckles turning white as I tried to control my temper. Carlos caught sight of me and sneered. Well, Julia, you really had to go crying to your daddy? I just hit you a few times. Not like you're dead. The nerve of this kid. Right in front of me, he still dared to act so cocky. My hand slipped into my pocket, feeling around until I found what I was looking for. Carlos, noticing my arrival, seemed to grow even more arrogant. What? Julia? Are you gonna cry now? Go on. Call your daddy. What's he gonna do? Sell me some fish balls? I couldn't stand it anymore. I walked over to the corner of the office, where an old mop was leaning against the wall, grabbed it, and rammed the mop head straight into his mouth. You've got such a filthy mouth. Let me clean it for you. Carlos struggled and flailed, but he was too small to fight back. I kept pressing the mop forward. Still want to talk tough? Go ahead. Keep running your mouth. The more he struggled, the more I pressed. I wasn't going to stop until he knew what it felt like to be put in his place. Carlos finally managed to push the mop away, spitting and coughing, his face turning red with anger. You're gonna regret this, you filthy bastard. When my dad finds out, I raised an eyebrow, amusement dancing in my eyes. Your dad? Go ahead. I'm right here. Tell him everything. And while you're at it, why don't you tell him how you like to bully little girls, huh? Carlos's eyes flashed with defiance. but he stayed silent. I wasn't done. I grabbed him by the back of his shirt and spun him around, forcing him to face the wall. You think it's okay to hit girls? You think it's fun to bully people who are smaller than you? He tried to shake me off, but I tightened my grip. You like hitting, huh? All right. Let's see how you like it. I raised my hand, fully prepared to give him a taste of his own medicine. But before I could swing, a sharp voice cut through the room. Luke! Stop! Latina burst into the room, her heels clacking against the tile, her hair perfectly curled, and her outfit looking as if she had just stepped out of a magazine spread. She rushed over, shoving me aside, and pulling Carlos into her arms, holding him like a mother hen shielding her chick. What are you doing? He's just a kid. You're a grown man. How could you lay a hand on him? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Julia had been bullied by Carlos for who knows how long, but Latina never cared. Now, the moment Carlos got into trouble, she was here in a flash, holding him as if he was her own son. I took a deep breath and walked over to Julia, gently patting her back and shielding her behind me. Carlos laid hands on Julia. And you think that's okay? Latina's face flickered with surprise, but she quickly shot a glance at Carlos. Carlos glared right back at her, his eyes filled with malice. Latina hesitated for only a second before turning back to me, her expression hardening. Julia must have done something to provoke him. Carlos wouldn't just hit her for no reason. It's Julia's fault. I'm sure of it. I stared at her, disbelief mixing with cold fury. Are you even listening to yourself right now? You're saying it's okay for him to hit her, and you're blaming Julia. Latina's eyes flared with defiance. I know Carlos. He's a good kid. If he did something, he must have had a reason. I laughed, the sound hollow and bitter. Latina, you really are something else. You abandoned your own daughter for this brat, and now you're defending him when he bullies her? You really want to be his mom that badly? Her face turned red with fury, and she screamed back at me. Of course. I want to protect him. Carlos has no mother. If I don't look out for him, who will? You don't understand anything. You're just a stubborn fool with a stall. The words were sharp and cutting, but I didn't flinch. Yeah, I sell food. I work hard. And you? You're throwing away your own daughter's happiness for someone else's kid. Tell me, Latina, does Carlos call you Mom yet? Isn't that what you want? That hit her where it hurt. Latina's eyes widened, and her grip on Carlos tightened. Carlos, meanwhile, just looked back and forth between us, the corners of his mouth pulling into a smirk. See? I told you I could make him lose it, he whispered to Latina, his voice dripping with arrogance. I caught that, and I laughed. Oh, I see how it is now. You really want to play family that badly? Fine. Why don't you go ahead and take him for good? I'm done playing along with this farce. Latina's face turned pale, and for the first time, she looked genuinely afraid. Luke, you wouldn't? I nodded slowly. Oh, I would. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of mother you are. The room went silent, and Latina's face turned ghostly pale. She stared at me with wide eyes, disbelief plastered all over her face. You wouldn't. Luke, you wouldn't dare. I laughed, the sound cold and sharp. Wouldn't I? You think I wouldn't? Look at you. The minute I stood up to you, you ran straight to Jason. And now you're playing house with someone else's kid? Trust me, I dare. Latina's lips quivered, and her eyes filled with tears. But I had seen enough of those fake tears to last me a lifetime. I wasn't falling for it again. Her hands tightened around Carlos, her voice shaking. I did it for him. Carlos needed someone. He didn't have a mother. What was I supposed to do? Just leave him alone? I scoffed, the bitterness seeping into my voice. And what about Julia? She has a mother, but her mother chose someone else's son over her. What kind of mother is that? Latina flinched at my words, but her defiance returned quickly. You don't understand. Carlos needs me more than Julia does. He's just a child without anyone to look after him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I had married, the woman I had sacrificed so much for, was now telling me to my face that my daughter didn't need her. Wow, I whispered, shaking my head. I guess you've finally said it. You really don't care about Julia at all. Latina bit her lip, her eyes flashing with anger. Don't twist my words, Luke. You just don't understand. I did what I had to do. Had to do. I stepped forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. You didn't have to do anything. You chose to. You chose to abandon Julia for someone else's kid. You chose to let her suffer alone, and you chose to lie about it. I pointed at Carlos, who was still standing smugly by Latina's side. That little brat scratched someone's face at school. You chose to defend him, to run to his side, while Julia was alone, scared and sick. Latina shook her head, her hair whipping around her shoulders. You don't understand, Luke. You never did. That's why you're just a street vendor. And Jason is so much more. Her words were meant to hurt. But instead of feeling pain, I felt a freedom. I straightened up, nodding slowly. You know what, Latina? You're absolutely right. Jason is so much more. More of a coward, more of a backstabber, and more of a hypocrite. You two are perfect for each other. Before she could say anything, I pulled out my phone. I opened the parent group chat. Everyone, I want you all to know something. My daughter Julia was beaten up by Carlos today at school. And guess who came running to his rescue? Not his dad-me ex-wife, Latina. Latina, who always claimed to be the perfect mother, was there to defend Carlos after he assaulted my daughter. She left Julia at home alone before, causing her to have a heart attack. And now she's playing stepmom to Carlos while Julia is left to fend for herself. The group chat exploded. Mao's mom. What? That's disgusting. What kind of mother does that? Tutu's dad. I knew something was off with her. So fake. Unbelievable. Beanie's mom. And to think I trusted her. I'm disgusted. The messages kept rolling in, parents expressing their disbelief and disgust. Latina's perfect image was shattered, and I watched as her face turned pale, her eyes wide with panic. Luke, take it back. Please, she whispered, her voice cracking. But I just stared at her coldly. You want to be someone else's mother? Then go ahead. But don't you dare come back to Julia and me. We're done with you. Latina opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Her hands shook as she clutched her purse, and then she turned, dragging Carlos with her, stumbling out of the school office. I went back to Julia, kneeling down so I was eye level with her. I reached out, gently cupping her cheek. Are you okay, sweetheart? Julia looked at me, her big eyes brimming with tears. But she still held them back, biting her lip and nodding. I'm okay, Daddy. It didn't hurt that much, really. Her voice was shaky, but she was trying to be strong for me, for the both of us. My heart ached. I pulled her into my arms and held her close. It's okay, baby. Daddy's here. I won't let anyone hurt you again. Julia wrapped her small arms around my neck, squeezing tightly. I love you, Daddy. I'm so glad it's just us now. I'm really glad. Hearing her say that, I knew I'd made the right choice. No more Latina. No more, Carlos. It was just me and Julia now, and I would do everything in my power to make sure she was happy, safe, and loved. The days that followed were blissful. I no longer had to worry about Latina spending our savings on Carlos, and every penny I made went straight to improving our lives. I bought new clothes for Julia, her favorite toys, and even her very own pink bicycle. Her laughter filled the house, and the darkness that had once lingered was completely gone. One day, while I was setting up my food stall, a familiar face appeared. It was Jason, dressed in his usual polished suit, but this time, he looked defeated. "Luke?" he started, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Can we talk?" I didn't bother looking up. I kept grilling my skewers, the aroma of fresh meat and spices filling the air. "I'm a bit busy, Jason. What do you need?" He hesitated, shuffling his feet like a child who'd been caught doing something bad. It's about Latina." I raised an eyebrow, glancing up for the first time. "She's your problem now. Isn't that what you wanted?" Jason winced, clearly unprepared for my bluntness. "Look, I know you're mad, and you have every right to be. But things aren't working out the way I thought they would." I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound came out raw and genuine. "Oh, really? You mean running off with someone else's wife and playing daddy didn't turn out the way you wanted?" I'm shocked. Jason's face flushed, but he held his ground. I wanted to apologize. To you. To Julia. I was wrong." His words, though surprising, didn't mean much to me. I had already moved on. "That's real nice of you, Jason," I replied casually, flipping the skewers over. "But I don't need your apology, and neither does Julia. We're better off without you and Latina." Jason's shoulders sagged, the weight of his choices evident in his posture. He nodded, turned, and walked away without another word. I watched him go, a strange sense of satisfaction settling over me. My life was finally my own, just me and Julia, and we were going to be just fine. I thought that was the end of it. Jason had slinked away, and Latina had vanished from our lives. Julia and I were finally free, finally happy. We settled into a comfortable routine. I would wake up early, make breakfast for us, get Julia ready for school, and drop her off before setting up my food stall. Business was good. Without Latina draining my savings and showering Carlos with gifts, I found myself saving more money than ever. I even managed to upgrade my food stall, adding more items to the menu. Customers were happy. Business grew, and word spread. Life was finally starting to look bright. One sunny afternoon, as I was busy grilling skewers and serving up hot bowls of soup, I heard a familiar voice. "Luke, I didn't expect to see you doing so well." I turned around, and there she was, Latina, standing there in her designer clothes, perfectly made up, with a new purse slung over her shoulder. Right beside her was Carlos, still chewing gum, blowing bubbles like he hadn't a care in the world. "Business is booming, huh?" Latina said, a hint of mockery in her voice. I continued flipping the meat on the grill, not even bothering to look up. "It's doing just fine. What do you want, Latina?" Latina pouted, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Oh, I was just passing by and saw your little operation here. Thought I'd say hello." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Is that right? You're just passing by? Funny how you always seem to show up where you're not wanted." Her smile faltered for a split second, but she quickly recovered. "Well, I just wanted to see how you were doing." I was concerned. I finally looked up, locking eyes with her. "Concerned? About me? That's a good one, Latina. Since when have you ever been concerned about anyone other than yourself?" Her expression tightened, and I could see the flash of irritation in her eyes. You know, Luke, you don't have to be so bitter. I'm just trying to be civil. Civil? I scoffed. You? Civil? That's rich. You left your own daughter alone for another man's kid. You have no right to pretend you care now. Carlos, who had been silent up until now, snickered. Yeah, old man. She doesn't need to care about you anymore. You're just a loser with a cart. My dad's a vice president now. What are you? A street vendor. I looked at him, my hand still turning the skewers. A street vendor, huh? Yeah, I guess I am. And what does that make you? A spoiled brat with a fake daddy? Carlos's eyes flared with anger, and Latina immediately stepped forward, putting her hand on his shoulder. Don't, Carlos. He's not worth it. She shot me a look of pure disdain. You're just jealous. I have Jason now, and Carlos has a real father. Look at you, still playing with meat sticks on the side of the road. I smiled, calm and steady. That's fine. I'd rather be here with my daughter than living a lie. I guess we just have different priorities. Latina's face hardened. You'll regret it, Luke. You could have had it all, but you threw it away. I leaned back, crossing my arms. No, Latina. I didn't throw anything away. I got rid of the trash. Her eyes flashed with fury, and for a moment, I thought she might actually slap me. But she held back, probably for fear of ruining her perfect image. Come on, Carlos. We don't need to waste our time here. She spat, grabbing his hand and yanking him away. Carlos shot me a look of pure venom before disappearing around the corner with Latina. Days turned into weeks, and I didn't see or hear from them again. Julia and I continued with our lives peaceful, happy, and free from their poison. My food stall business grew even bigger. I upgraded to a food truck, painting it bright red with the words, Luke's Street Grill in bold white letters. Customers loved it. Business was booming, and I even started catering events. The income flowed in, and I was able to afford a bigger apartment for Julia and me. Her room was decorated in pinks and whites, filled with plush toys and fairy lights. I made sure she had everything she needed, everything she deserved. One afternoon, just as I was wrapping up an event, I got a phone call. The number was unfamiliar, but I picked it up anyway. Hello? Luke, it's me. I froze. It was Latina. What do you want? I asked, my voice cold and distant. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a deep sigh. I need your help. I almost laughed out loud. My help? You've got to be kidding me. I'm serious, Luke. Things aren't going well. Her voice cracked, and for the first time in a long time, I heard genuine desperation. I leaned against my truck, crossing my arms. You have Jason now. Why don't you ask him for help? Another pause, then a shaky breath. Jason. He left. Took everything. The house. The money. Everything. Now I did laugh. The sound came out louder than I expected, and I didn't bother to hide it. So, you're telling me you left your daughter, ruined your family, all for that guy. And now he's gone? Unbelievable. Luke, please. Her voice broke. I don't have anywhere else to go. I just want to see Julia. That wiped the smile off my face. My jaw clenched. You think you can just waltz back into her life after everything you did? After you abandoned her? Her breathing grew ragged. Please, I'm begging you. I stayed silent for a long moment, then finally spoke. No, Julia doesn't need you, and neither do I. I ended the call. For a long moment, I just stood there, the phone still in my hand. I looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and let it out. We were finally free. Truly, completely free. I climbed back into the driver's seat, started the engine, and headed back home. Julia was waiting for me, and that was all I needed. The weeks that followed were blissful. I expanded my food truck business, setting up at various spots around town. The red truck became a familiar sight, known for its sizzling skewers, fragrant soups, and mouth-watering dishes. People would line up just to get a taste. Word spread quickly, and soon I wasn't just selling food, I was building a brand. Local events started reaching out, asking me to cater. Festivals, community gatherings, even corporate events. I was making more money than I ever had, and I was saving it all for Julia. Our life transformed. We moved into a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, Julia's room filled with toys and plush animals she had only dreamed of before. Her smile was constant, her laughter infectious. She went to school every day with her head held high, her eyes bright and full of joy. I made sure to be there every morning to make her breakfast, and every evening to pick her up, no matter how busy I got. And when she hugged me and whispered, "I love you, Daddy," I knew everything I did was worth it. One Saturday morning, I was setting up for a local food festival. The organizers had invited me personally, saying my food was now a community favorite. I parked my truck, set up the grill, and started prepping for the crowd. As I was setting out the skewers, I saw a familiar figure standing a distance away, watching me. It was Latina. Her once perfectly styled hair was now flat and lifeless. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced with a worn-out jacket and scuffed shoes. She looked thinner, more fragile. For a moment, I just watched her, waiting to see what she would do. She took a deep breath and walked up to the truck, her eyes darting nervously as if she expected me to shoo her away. "Luke," she began, her voice hoarse and shaky. I didn't respond. I kept my hands busy, brushing sauce over the skewers and flipping them. The sizzling sound filling the air, she swallowed hard and continued, I heard about the food truck. You've really done well for yourself." I glanced up at her, expressionless. "I have." She bit her lip, nodding. "That's good. That's really good." We stood there in silence, the smoke from the grill swirling between us. Finally, she broke the silence. I just wanted to see you. And Julia, I miss her." I stopped turning the skewers, the meat hissing as it hit the hot grill. I took a deep breath, wiping my hands on my apron. "Miss her?" I asked, my voice steady. Latina nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "Yes, I know I made mistakes. I know I wasn't a good mother, but she's still my daughter." I looked her straight in the eyes, and I saw it a glimmer of regret, of genuine sorrow. But it wasn't enough. Not after everything. "She's happy now," I said finally. "Happier than she's ever been. And I'm not going to let you take that away from her." Latina flinched, her hands trembling. "Luke, I'm her mother. Please." "You were her mother," I corrected her, my voice firm. "You gave that up a long time ago." Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time, I saw her completely break. The confidence, the pride, the arrogance, it was all gone. She looked defeated. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm really sorry." I watched her for a long moment, then I nodded. "Maybe you are." "But it's too late." A single tear rolled down her cheek, and she brushed it away quickly, straightening her back. "I understand," she murmured. I just wanted to see her. One last time." I hesitated, then I sighed, rubbing the back of my neck. "She's at school. She's happy." That's all that matters now. Latina nodded slowly, her eyes lowering to the pavement. I see. Well, thank you. For everything. Take care of her, okay? I didn't answer. I just watched as she turned and walked away, her footsteps slow and unsteady, her figure getting smaller and smaller, until she finally disappeared from view. That evening, I picked up Julia from school as usual. She came running out, her pigtails bouncing, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Daddy!" she cried. Throwing her arms around me, I knelt down, hugging her tight. "How was school, sweetheart?" She beamed up at me, her eyes sparkling. "Great! We learned about the stars today. Did you know they're really far away, but they still shine so bright?" I chuckled, ruffling her hair. "I did know that, but I didn't know you'd be my little star." Julia giggled, squeezing my hand as we walked back to the car. As I buckled her in, she looked up at me, her eyes thoughtful. "Daddy, are we always going to be happy like this?" I paused, then leaned down, cupping her cheek. "Yes, Julia. As long as I'm here, you're going to be happy. I promise." Her smile widened, and she wrapped her tiny arms around my neck. "I love you, Daddy." My heart swelled with emotion, and I hugged her back just as tightly. "I love you too, sweetheart." More than anything. We drove back home, the sun setting behind us, casting long shadows across the road. And I knew, deep in my heart, that this was the beginning of something beautiful. Just me and Julia, and that was all I needed.